Welcome back to the 2018 Great Give Radiothon on WNHH 103.5 FM, live streamed at New Haven and Pandora. We're raising a lot of money for some great causes in New Haven. We do this every year. The Community Foundation has a great event called the Great Give. This year, 488 nonprofits who do work in New Haven, making our community better. We're all joining together to raise money from you and your neighbors with the hope of a $1.5 million total to keep all good works alive. And we've been bringing people on each segment to give you suggestions why you should give money to them. A lot of people in New Haven already know why they'd want to give money to IRIS, Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services. But we're still going to find out and ask you this hour to go to thegreatgive.org, thegreatgive.org, and just type in IRIS, I-R-I-S. You'll get there. And if you want to throw in a few bucks for WNHH Radio, we'd love that too. Because Chris George is in the studio from IRIS. He came last year, and he made me a promise. He said that, like the other guests who come on the Radiothon, he would bring a song or a poem. And boy, did he bring a song. He brought a band, at least a keyboard. And he's ready to sing for his supper here. Chris is one of my heroes in New Haven, and one of New Haven's heroes to the nation. And we talked earlier on this Radiothon about how when we're feeling sad and dispirited about the direction our country is taking, instead of just stewing about it, we could find ways where we live to make our world a better place where it matters most. And there's no better example of that than IRIS, and we've settling refugees and immigrants who are being turned away by other communities throughout our country. And we have a model agency here in New Haven that's resettled so many, and we're going to hear about that and why. But first, we're going to say welcome to Chris George. Nice to see you.
Thanks,
Chris
Paul.
runs IRIS, and he also is now going to sing for us. Tell us what you got.
Well, yeah, let me give you a little context. Refugee resettlement agencies work under the direction of the U.S. State Department. This is one of those rare but very efficient public-private partnerships. Get a little bit of money from the federal government. We have to do things according to their regulations. But then we also have to go out and raise private funds to supplement that money. And at times like this, when the federal government is bringing fewer refugees and cutting our funding, we have to try that much harder to raise the private resources to keep the program going. We're one of about 250 refugee resettlement agencies in the country, and that number is dropping as I speak.
Really?
Because of the administration's actions to dismantle the nationwide network.
Maybe they're going to Canada, where we read about such wonderful work that gets done there resettling.
You know, speaking of Canada, we use a model here in Connecticut that the Canadians have used. Private communities coming together, community groups, volunteers coming together to resettle refugees, and it's been very successful. In fact, Connecticut has the largest community-based refugee resettlement program in the country.
Wow. How many people have you resettled?
We've resettled more than 300 refugees with about 50 community groups spread across the state.
Wow, and I know that our synagogue and other synagogues and churches and mosques in our community are all, you give us all something to do. Right now, we're which is great because we want to do something, and we're helping a family come in. Right now, our synagogue has been helping other synagogues resettle families, but now we're talking about whether we want to be a place for them to stay and live, which we're hoping was going to happen, sanctuary, and I guess that overlaps a couple of different things here. But if you ever wondered how much of a difference you make besides the lives of the people, when you see the number of people who turn out every year for your fundraiser and the walk that goes from Wilbur Cross down to the Green, and how festive that is and how great everybody feels putting it on their own social media pages that they participate, all the groups that come in. This is something New Haven has rallied around, and you've given us hope for dark times.
Well, New Haven really gets it. Connecticut gets it. And they see that this is the Statue of Liberty in action. This is the American dream. Welcoming persecuted people from all over the world is what has made this country what it is. It's part of our DNA. It's our patriotic duty to do it. And isn't it amazing that we have a president of the United States who is totally opposed to it?
Yeah.
So what those volunteer groups do and what my staff does before refugees arrive is we have to go out and find an apartment. We furnish it with donated furniture. We stock the kitchen with food, and then we have to find someone in the neighborhood, and your volunteer group did this, Paul, someone in the neighborhood who can cook a culturally appropriate hot meal to serve that family within 2 hours of their arrival. That is a federal government requirement. It's probably the best federal government requirement of all time. And when I tell school kids, when I speak to them, if you're ever asked on a test to write down the best U.S. law or regulation, write that down.
And why is that?
Within 2 hours of a refugee's arrival, they must be served a culturally appropriate hot meal. It is a great way of welcoming people. And in a way, it symbolizes that great American tradition of using food to show hospitality and welcome people. And it shows a sensitivity to their culture by making it culturally appropriate for them. So it is a really sweet way of welcoming people from the Congo, from Iraq, from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Sudan, wherever, with a meal that they're used to as soon as they arrive. So I love that regulation so much that I have written a song.
Oh, my God.
it.
Here we go. Okay, Chris George, who runs IRIS, Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services, is going to sing to try to help convince you. While he's singing, you could do it while he's singing and listening. TheGreatGive.org. Look up IRIS, I-R-I-S, and please consider giving them a donation for The Great Give. Hit it.
Find an apartment, make sure it's furnished by federal law to seal the deal. Within 2 hours of their arrival, serve them a culturally appropriate hot meal. You've got Republicans, you've got your Democrats, and the bickering is so unreal. If only more things could be bipartisan, like the culturally appropriate hot meal. I'm not talking hamburgers, hold the lasagna. It's not the time for ham or veal. If you're a refugee, we're going to welcome you with a culturally appropriate hot meal. Arroz con pollo for the Cubans. Halal if you're from Iraq. The Congolese, they like variety. Just make it culturally appropriate and hot.
Did you write that?
I did.
You wrote the music too?
I wrote the music.
Chris, I didn't know you got pipes too. Have you done?
No.
You been in musicals? Because the way you're delivering it sounds like someone who's been in a play.
I want to thank Lars, who is the music director from
Lars
Bethesda Lutheran
Jaredy,
Church.
right? Is that how you say it? Jaredy?
And they have been partners for years. They've done fundraisers for us. In fact, this was originally written for a cabaret that was organized at Bethesda Lutheran. So thank you.
Okay,
Shout
but
out
now
to
fess
Lars.
up. Have you done performing?
No.
Really?
I have a son who's an actor, and maybe he got a little bit of the DNA.
No, but you hit the
from me.
notes.
No,
And
well,
you did the
there.
gestures. You identified yourself as a Democrat with that hand gesture. I won't reveal it, but it was on Facebook Live. What? You really just did that? I mean, how about writing the music?
I sang for my children. I've got 3 kids, so I went through, 3 stages of creating songs and singing.
Oh,
for them.
really?
This is actually a tune that I created for our middle child.
What was the circumstance? What was the original?
Oh, just to help her go to sleep.
That's so sweet. You guys have one called Clean and Dry when you change the diaper? And you'll be a happy guy. I like singing that one. Chris, that was terrific.
But anyway, I people might look at this picture and say, why is this guy smiling?
Yeah, why
He's
is this
the
guy
director
smiling?
of a refugee resettlement
That's right. What are you
agency
smiling about?
that is under assault.
Mm-hmm.
The number of refugees has been dramatically, shamefully cut by the Trump administration. Our funding is being cut. We have colleague organizations across the country that are laying off staff and closing down. But, if you're in the if you're in the community of welcoming refugees, you have to be optimistic. You have to be positive. They raise your spirits. They make you happy.
I see that with everyone who works with the refugee families. It's not like everything's easy. You know, a lot of people talk to how you're going to find a job, how you adjust to the country. And, you know, we followed your work without identifying the individuals involved. With the New York Times has done a graphic series, graphic meaning like a graphic novel, cartoons, a fellow Jake Halpern, I forget the name of the artist.
Michael Sloan,
the
great
cartoonist. They're
artist.
from New Haven, and you teamed up with them. You got them together with a family, and they told that family stories in a series of op art cartoons in the New York Times Magazine that just won a Pulitzer Prize, and it's going to be a book. And what was amazing about the timing, unless you had thought it out this way, I don't think you did, but I could be wrong, the family came the day that Donald Trump was elected president, correct?
That's right. We had two families, two brothers and their families arriving on Election Day. Normally, refugee agencies do not allow the press at arrivals, but I made an exception. I said, if you hang back, you don't stick microphones in their faces, you don't take any pictures, you can be there. They were there, and they're professionals. I mean, Jake and Michael, they're discreet, they're professional, and they did a great job with it.
They picked one family to follow.
Actually, two. One
Okay.
primary family, but they also worked with the brothers' family as well. And both were resettled by community groups.
And how are they doing now, those two families?
They're doing well. You know, a refugee comes here having left everything behind. Often they don't speak English. They don't have any money. It's a struggle. And it's a real slog, you know, through those first months, trying to learn English and trying to get a job and accepting a job that is, you know, several rungs lower on the ladder to what you were used to doing in your home country, worrying about your children. You come with a number of health problems, but that is the way millions of people came to this country.
Yeah, I met one fellow you guys have helped on my street on Central Avenue who came from Iraq, I believe it was. No, he came from Syria. And I believe he had a high-level medical job where the hospital got bombed, and all the records were destroyed of all his professional qualifications and all his experience. He was trying to adjust the fact here that he can't get a job like that here or be licensed. You know, he was in his 60s, I believe, you know, or late 50s, and that's a tough one.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
They come mainly for their children, Paul, and they'll tell you this. They
This
look,
guy's kids were supposed to come, and then the rules changed after he got in.
Gosh, yeah. Most of the refugees we resettle are families, mom, dad, kids, and they say, "Look, I know I'm not going to learn this language. I know I'm never going to have the status I had in my home country. I might not have a job of my dreams, but I came here so my kids could have a future."
Chris, can you tell me one story that stands in your mind? You don't have to try to pick the one most memorable one. That stands in your mind of a story of a family, again, not names, whose story made you feel like this is why I do the work and this is the difference we make.
You know, there are so many. I think of a woman, a single mom from Iraq. She had 4 kids, and they were a handful. The oldest one was tough. She didn't speak much English. And, you know, the rules are you are not going to be supported forever. You've got to go out and get a job. She never worked outside the home, but she went out, she got a job. She proudly showed me her first paycheck. And she's now supporting a family by herself.
What percentage of the families end up being self-supporting?
Oh, by the end of 6 months, more than 50% are able to support themselves without any more help from IRIS
Wow.
or the volunteer groups. And then after a year, you know, it's up to 80%.
What happens with the other 20?
They need extra help. And that's another reason why we need to raise money. Not every family is able to make it as soon as we'd like for them to. They've got health issues. The kids are young. They just don't get with the program as quickly as they should. So it is hard for everyone to meet that schedule.
One way to maybe start helping a little bit is go to thegreatgive.org right now. And, you know,
Thank you.
We're asking you to go to help many not-for-profits in our community for the Great Give Radiothon. And this is the hour we'd like you to help Iris. Help them later, too. But if you feel like it right now, thegreatgive.org. Just type in IRIS and help Chris George and his gang help families come to our city. How's this changing New Haven,
Well,
the work you're doing?
our biggest year for bringing the largest number of refugees to Connecticut was 2016. We welcomed 530 refugees. About
Wow, and then the door
200
closed.
were welcomed all across the state and resettled in small towns and cities all across the state. But New Haven has become a home community for some nationalities now. Afghans are coming to New Haven in relatively large.
So how many Afghans live in New Haven now?
Oh, probably 200.
Wow, and what part of town are they centered in?
Well, they're all over. They're all over. And there's a Syrian community here, a growing Syrian community. Before, when we started welcoming Iraqi refugees, there's now an Iraq community. They meet each other, they get married, they have weddings. So it has just even further internationalized, globalized this already diverse, cosmopolitan,
And the
welcoming
Syrian community,
city.
the folks I know, I don't know too many. When I talk to them, they're obviously devastated. People they know who are still left behind, and they never know when they can get a notification someone died in that horrible civil war. What anything special that your organization trains its people to do in dealing with Syrian refugees?
Well, we have an amazing staff, dedicated, experienced professionals. We've got a case manager who's been with us for 23 years. We have staff with degrees in social work, and they're sensitive. They know when to spot problems that need professional help above and beyond what they can offer. Yale New Haven Hospital is an incredible resource for healthcare. We are the envy of many refugee resettlement agencies across the country because in Yale New Haven Hospital, they have what's called a refugee clinic, dedicated hours
Oh, yeah?
to help refugees. Yeah. Can Lars play us out with the tune?
Yes. Yes. Lars, you can play us out there. Chris George, I want to thank you for coming on the Great Give Radiothon. Make it time. And
Thanks.
let's just remind people, please give to Iris.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, George.
Thanks, WNHH.
H. All right. That's Lars Jardy at the keyboards, Chris George from Iris. We're going to now take it out, the Afro-Semitic experience for the transition. We're going to be back in just a few minutes at the Great Give Radiothon. Thank you, Chris George, for everything you do. Thank you for making so many of us feel great about living in New Haven in these troubled times.
Thank you, New Haven. Thank you, Connecticut. You've made this a welcoming city and a welcoming state for refugees.